Sony PlayStation, holy smokes, they're in the news now because a live service God of War game has just been canceled by Sony, okay? And Bloomberg has all the news. Apparently there's 2 huge games, so let's read up on this. This comes from the man himself, Jason Schreier. Sony Group Corp PlayStation has canceled previously unannounced games at 2 of its top subsidiaries, the company said Thursday. The games at Oregon-based Bend Studio and Texas-based Bluepoint Games were both live service game projects designed to draw reoccurring revenue from players. I gotta say, Sony's whole live service venture, I mean, Concord is the biggest one, clearly, but brother, how is it's so interesting how PlayStation has just bombed with live service games and dominated with single player games, and Microsoft has just killed it with live service games. Granted, they bought a lot of them, and they cannot make a great single player game to save their lives. Like, how is it that they're both reversed? You know, because Microsoft has Minecraft, they have Call of Duty, they have Halo, they have Sea of Thieves, they have Forza, World of Warcraft now. Like, they have so much. And then Sony is just the opposite. Like, they just have like Ghost of Tsushima, Last of Us, Uncharted, God of War. You know, they got so much there, like Astrobot. But for whatever reason, they just can't get a hang of the live service thing. I mean, remember that Drive game that came out? PlayStation, Destruction All-Stars. Destruction All-Stars was a miss. Concord, a huge miss. The Foam Stars thing, remember? They had a foam thing. It was like a Splatoon copy. That bombed. It's just not looking good. It's not looking good for the live service thing. And quite frankly, I'm just not interested in a live service game from Sony, to be honest. I just don't think it's worth it, but I get why they would go for it. Let's continue reading. Company spokesperson confirmed the cancellations in a statement. Spokesperson said that the 2 games were canceled following a recent review. Concord. And that PlayStation will continue making both online and single-player games. Neither studio will be shuttered. That is fantastic. These are great studios. Bend and Bluepoint are highly accomplished teams who are valued members of the PlayStation Studio family, and we are working closely with each studio to determine what are their next projects, end quote, the spokesperson said. The article goes on to say, over the last few years, PlayStation has invested big in live service games, which are typically multiplayer games with microtransactions and other ways to get money out of players for months and years after they launch. These games are risky ventures, but can be lucrative when they're successful. Yeah, Helldivers 2 is actually the only one I can think of that just honestly killed it. For Sony, the strategy has led to one hit in 2024's Helldivers 2 and several flops, including Concord, which was removed from sale less than 2 weeks after release. I think removing Concord from sales was a bad idea. Like, why release it with bots or something? Like, let people at least play offline, you know? I wouldn't stop selling it. I would make it so it can work offline, and then there's potential that it can grow into like its own thing of just people really liking it. Give people something to do with it. I think that could have been good. And then if they, because again, this is what I always say. Okay, and Helldivers did this. The thing that Sony is forgetting, and a lot of AAA games are forgetting, is it's much better to test out the idea first with something small, and then make it bigger with something like a live service. Helldivers 1 was a small little PlayStation Vita game and a PlayStation 4 game. It was top-down, it was very, very simple, but people really liked it. And so to take that concept, make it bigger, and then live service, it makes total sense. The idea has been tested. People love the style, people love the vibe, and everything they did with Helldivers 2 went fantastic. People went cuckoo, went crazy for Cocoa Puffs, or whatever the saying is. They did it for Helldivers 2. Concord, they just went right out of the gate and risked it all. I would not have done that. If at best, what I would have done is taken the idea of Concord and plugged it into a multiplayer mode, a simple multiplayer mode on a game that people like that Sony has made. Like something like that. Just test it, or make a tiny version of that game. See how people feel about it. Then if they like it, then grow from there. These AAA game companies just seem to risk so much. And risk is good in business. But when you risk $500 million, Like, that's people's lives at stake. Not only just like from an employee perspective of being fired, but like, bro, you're hitting your stock, which is like your employees who have been there for 10, 20, 30 years. That hits their retirement fund. Like, you got to be smarter with that stuff. And AAA companies, I've never seen stupider moves. I've never seen stupider moves than in the AAA space. The company has also canceled several other live service games over the last few years, including one based off of Spider-Man. See, this is what I'm saying. I would have included something in Spider-Man, just something simple, not complex, just to give you a little tiny little goose peek, just a little peek under the covers of what it could be. And if people like it, expand. Sony didn't say if the cancellations will lead to job cuts. In a memo to staff reviewed by Bloomberg, the company said it's working closely with Ben and Bluepoint to determine what are the next projects and plans to do everything we can to ensure there is minimal business impact, end quote. The last 2 years have been difficult for the video game industry, which has seen tens of thousands lose their jobs in the wake of bad bets and slower growth. And that's the emphasis, right? Bad bets. So before I give my take here, let's just make it free to play for starters. Yeah, 100%. They should start single player, then multiplayer. Totally agree. I think a lot of people would buy for the lore of it, owning a game that has such an infamous story. Microsoft lays off employees from gaming this month. Yeah, I saw Microsoft just laid off, I think, 2,000 employees. It was like 1% of the company due to slow growth in gaming. Chat, to sum up the whole Sony stuff of like the live service thing, look, live service is not a bad thing. Contrary to popular belief, for people online, live service is not a bad thing. I mean, look at Call of Duty. People love Call of Duty. To say people don't love Call of Duty is insane. It's a super, super popular game, but then just take it outside. People love World of Warcraft. People love Fortnite. People love live service. I mean, GTA Online, huge. People love these types of games, and if you can do it right, then it's a real winner. However, to go from zero to hero with a live service game is such a high risk. Could you do it at the level of Rockstar? Sure. But from memory, when GTA Online came out, it was a disaster. In 2013, when GTA Online first came out, it was a disaster. And they kept at it for years. Now, when you make a Grand Theft Auto and Red Dead Redemption, you have the capital where you can slowly fix it. Same thing with like Fortnite. Fortnite was bad for years. And it didn't even launch the way it was. It took them being like, hey, we're making kind of like a Minecraft meets Orcs Must Die type game. And then we're going to copy Battle Royale and make our own version in 2 months, and bada boom, bada bing. Someone made a YouTube video about that. It's pretty good. So it doesn't come out of nowhere. PUBG, CSGO, 100%. I mean, look at Counter-Strike. Counter-Strike is a behemoth, and that thing has been available for 20 years, just tested. Counter-Strike coming from Half-Life. And then you get Counter-Strike 1.0, then it goes all the way to 1.6, then you get Source, then you get all this stuff. You get Counter-Strike Go, then you get CS2. They've been building on it. And Sony just rolls the dice with things like Concord, and that's just too risky. It's too risky. Especially when Sony owns a stake in Bungie. Why? It's unnecessary. You have Bungie. Focus on what you have. That's a tried and true thing with Destiny. Let's get Destiny 3. It's time. Destiny 2 is too complex. So I think live service has a place. I would like to see more live service games that are good. But I would more like, if I had to put emphasis on one thing in the video game industry, is I would like these companies to hedge their bets with some smaller tests before risking it all and ruining employees' lives. These people are working for you. You have a fundamental duty to make sure they're okay. And when you are backing the stupidest ideas of all time, you are ruining their lives, not yours. And that is a real bummer. And I don't like that.